It is a profound and necessary truth that the deep things in science are not found because they are useful. They are found because it was possible to find them. J. Robert Oppenheimer. My name is Onyx, and for the past few months, I've been procrastinating and counting burgers. But for the last 2 weeks, I've been researching this Kuudra one-shot method thoroughly. Not only is it sweatier, riskier, and more powerful than the previous, it's almost bug-free and has a non-zero chance to evaporate the entire Earth's atmosphere. So sit down, buckle up, and enjoy the video. But before that, like and subscribe. In my previous video about one-shotting Kuudra, I pointed out that the main reason why we're able to one-shot it is because of a bug. More specifically, the Blade of the Volcano. For some reason, instead of adding 100 strength to the damage calculation like it said it would, it instead doubled our damage to any mob submerged in lava. If you combine it with the Rend and a bunch of other things, it could basically become an atomic bomb. Now if we perform all of these techniques together in one single blow. However, I've also stated, because I'm releasing this video, I bet the admins are going to watch it and then release another quality of life update to ruin the video. Lo and behold, the admins released the long-awaited foraging update. Long story short, Blade of the Volcano got patched and it works like intended now. The attribute rework effectively nerfed the lifeline and mana pool, and Kuudra now makes significantly less money because the attributes are in less demand because it's obtained everywhere else. Unfortunately, this introduced 3 new problems from the last Rend. We're missing a multiplier from the Blade of the Volcano patch, we're missing some bonus damage from lifeline levels missing, and we're also missing some mana that we need for our endstone sword. Fortunately, the new update added things that counteract the loss in damage. The way attributes work now is that you can have all your attributes active at once. Naturally, this means attributes we couldn't use before, like Deadeye or Elite, can apply alongside Lifeline and add towards the damage calculation. We could even have Lifeline and Dominance in the same instance without having to switch armor sets. However, this only solves the second problem we had. If we wanted to one-shot Kuudra, we'd have to solve all of it. But what if I told you that there was a way? Introducing the Elegant Tuxedo. This armor set fills in both the missing multiplier and the missing mana we lost from the foraging update. Except there's one problem. We literally die to everything in one hit. That includes lava. And we literally have to land in it. At least once. But I'll tell you how to counteract it later. It's time for me to teach you how to Rend. For those of you who don't know how Rend works, basically you can only stack up to 5 arrows. So if you land 5 arrows onto the magma cube over here, and then pull, we can do damage. It doesn't really matter what you pull with, just as long as the bow has Rend, you can pull it with anything, including a bone meringue. Rend has a range of 15 blocks, as you can see here. As I walk backwards, I can't really pull. And now if I go back into it and pull now, I do damage. Now the gear you need for rending is kind of simple. All you need is a bow that has Rend on it. It can be a Juju short bow, an artisanal short bow, or even a hurricane bow. Just stay away from me if it's not a Terminator. Now the next most important item is the bone meringue. It is quite literally the cornerstone of Rend. The reason why it is the cornerstone of Rend is because it deals double damage upon returning. Just to do a quick damage comparison, we're going to load this dummy with a few Rend arrows and then hit it with the backbone and then pull. 10 million damage. Now if we do it with the front bone, 5 million damage. Now the next most important item is a sword they can swap to with the following enchants, and preferably with a lot of mana, including the Hyperion or the Atomsplit Katana. Both of them are reforged to Fabled because apparently the Fabled bonus can give an extra 15% damage. Just to show you a quick damage comparison, I'm going to throw the bone and then swap to my Hyperion right now. 14 million. So this is the part where it gets kind of complicated. So basically you want to be equipping your Blaze Pet on your Infernal Terror set, and then when you swap to your Tuxedo set, you want to have your G-Drag out. Where did my G-Drag go? Yeah, right there. The way it works is that you start out in your Terror armor, you do the technique that we did before, so we throw a bone and then swap to our sword. But right before the backbone hits, you want to swap to your Tuxedo set immediately. Alright, so let me just load it with a few Rend arrows to see how much damage we can do with this newfound technique. and then pull. 61 million damage. Now the final component of this one-shot technique is the Endstone Sword. Its ability drains all of your mana, but in return it provides you a lot of bonus damage for a single hit. You want to do this right before you pull. Now if we combine all of these techniques into one single blow, but what if I told you that we can take it even further? With the Ragnarok, we can grant ourselves 1.5 times this weapon's strength. But if we combine it with the Withered Reforge and the Chimera 5 ultimate enchant with our golden dragon pet with antique remedies, we can get a total of 990 strength. Last time I checked, that's basically doubling our strength. Another buff that's worth using is from the Reaper set. If we sneak, we can grant ourselves an extra 100 base damage and 100 strength. Another item that we can compound on top of these buffs is the Hollow Wand. If we type in /wand info, you can see that there's a spell called Hurtful, and the most important part of it is that we get a multiplicative 1.2 times damage. Although the 40 ferocity will make sure that half of your hits won't land. Finally, I saved the best for last. We're heading into bug territory for this, but it's worth mentioning. Habanero Tactics 4. It doesn't really matter what enemy you're killing, but just as long as you're wearing Habanero Tactics and using a Slayer weapon, you get the bonus 20% damage per armor piece. Here's my attempt at doing the shot on my island, but I missed it entirely because of ferocity. So here's footage of another Kuudra sweat doing it. I think we're ready to apply to Kuudra now. So applying Rend to Kuudra is harder than it seems, but it's not that deep. Most people who play Kuudra already do the things that are necessary for Rend without rending. Now Kuudra is one of the fattest characters in existence. I am not lying. While Rend can one-shot a Kalhuiki tribe member which has 1 billion HP easily, Kuudra can take on 4 of these, max power, and survive. To overcome this, it's essential that you apply the last breath during the supplies phase to get rid of half of its defense. When we do this, we also have to hit skip. If we don't hit skip, Kuudra will despawn and get rid of any effect applied on it. Unfortunately, it includes your Rend arrows. If we're rending, we also have to apply Rend arrows onto Kuudra during the hits phase. As a stun, you would do this while flying into Kuudra. As a DPS, you would apply this as you hit Kuudra. Now the next problem you're going to have to deal with is sorting your inventory and buffing. I usually do both of these simultaneously since the Ragnarok takes 3 seconds to channel. While I wait for the Ragnarok to channel, I swap to my Reaper set, organize my hotbar for Rend, activate my Reaper set's ability, and then swap to my Terror set for the final phase. Finally, it's time for the execution. Earlier I mentioned that the range of Rend is 15 blocks. I also mentioned that Kuudra is one of the fattest characters in existence. While it seems that you can actually hit Kuudra while standing on the edge of the platform, the range of Rend takes into account the center of the mob. Why? This is why you have to jump towards Kuudra and pull right above the lava before inevitably landing in it. Now since the foraging update, I think the admin slightly reduced the range of the bone meringue. You used to be able to throw the bone 3 blocks away from the edge and still hit Kuudra, but now you literally have to stand closer, about a block away from the edge, and then throw the bone. Once you've executed Rend, it's ideal that you killed Kuudra already, but just in case, you have to hype right before you touch the lava. Anyways, if you have mana troubles, you probably want to turn off the mana steal attribute, because for some reason that affects how mana transfers from set to set. Don't know how that works. If you made it this far into the video, I thank you very much for giving me the free watch time that I need to get paid on YouTube. Anyways, you're probably wondering how everything works and why it works. Well, it's time to explain. In fact, this is actually what I've been spending the 2 weeks of research on. So admins, please don't patch this. These are the fundamental equations of the universe. It describes the damage dealt to any mob based on any attack placed onto it. The primary damage dealt is the product of the weapon's base damage and a bunch of multipliers. If you have a high school degree and paid enough attention to math, you realize that if we were given an amount of stats, the best thing to do with it is to distribute it equally to each multiplier. It's because of this that we try to balance our strength and crit damage. The two other multipliers, the additive multiplier and the multiplicative multiplier, are both out of our control and are based on the items and enchants we place onto our gear. And also, I gotta be real, whether something is an additive multiplier or a multiplicative multiplier isn't a quantum superposition. Now the next thing that we pay attention to is the damage formula for abilities. Now since we're rending, we don't really care about intelligence or ability scaling, but we do care about the rest because for some reason Rend is affected by ability damage. And the way that works is that it's a hidden multiplier on the wiki for some reason. It basically multiplies the entire damage dealt by the amount of ability damage that we have. Just keep in mind that base ability damage is not ability damage. Now that we got the nerd stuff out of the way, it's time for me to explain what's actually happening. When the bone is in motion, it preserves its stats. To show you what I mean, I'm gonna throw the bone onto the zombie and see how much damage I do with the terror armor, and now how much do I do if I take it off. Now I'm going to throw the bone and then take off my armor and see if we do the expected amount of damage. Now I know what you're thinking. You're probably wondering, wait a minute. Is this why we use the Blaze Pet? Yes. Yes it is. I mean, the Blaze Pet gives us an extra 10% of stats while in the Crimson Isle, but most importantly, it doubles the effect of hot potato books. This means that on our bone we get an extra 30 damage. 30 base damage. That's huge. Damage is calculated on damage. So it may have stated the obvious. I mean, who wouldn't calculate damage upon taking damage? But if you infer from the first law, the bone preserves its stats while in motion. But what would happen if I throw the bone and then add a multiplier to it somehow? Right, that is our control test. We did 1.8 million damage. And now if we throw the bone and then summon our G-Drag before it comes back, it does 2.7 million. How about we do the same thing again? Except we switch to an arm set besides Terror. Alright. Just to show you guys what I was wearing basically wearing nothing. Universal multipliers are broken. So the way Rend works is that it takes the damage of the last arrow that hit the mob as the base ability damage, and then plugs it into the ability damage formula. Now specifically, the arrow that we hit the mob with is affected by universal multipliers like the G-Drag or the Tuxedo. But abilities that we hit the mob with are also affected by universal multipliers. So in a way, if you're applying any universal modifiers like Lifeline or Dominance, you're applying it twice if you rend.